September 25th. A lot of history on this date. This is Auburn's winningest coach, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Ralph Shug Jordan's birthday, September 25th, 1910. He would be 114 if he were alive today. He'd be right up there with Mildred.
Mildred!
Mildred! Oh, hey.
Howdy, Mildred!
Awesome show today. Look, say your prayers absolutely for about a minute straight. The people down in Hurricane Alley, Orlando, Ocala, Gainesville, Tallahatchie, the Big Bend, and everybody after that. Listen to what these weather folks are saying. Pay attention. Get ready. Get ready. We got a size out there. Aaron Gobra, great Irish Catholic. He'll be on here with us in the first segment talking college football, one of the best in the business. Also, Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal in Knoxville checks in. We'll cover all 16. Look over my shoulder like the weatherman. All 16 in the SEC. We do it every day. The best executive producer, Brendan Martin. So smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Get pen and paper handy. Class is in session. Yep, here we come. Let's go.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Man, Connor, hopefully y'all are not going to get hit by it, but that area down there, it's like where we are, Tornado Alley. So I know you're going to be ready for it, but a lot of football this weekend. Don't know what games are going to be affected or not, but there's a big one in Tuscaloosa. And I was with some people last night that are big Alabama guys, and one of them said, Donald Trump's going to be 5 boxes over from me. And I said, just watch what's going on. It's going to be a traffic jam. He said, it's going to be insane. So wild one, Georgia and Alabama. What are your thoughts on that one? And then we'll just bounce around the SEC and college football.
I think there are people that are fatigued with Georgia and Alabama because it seems like they play each other every year in the SEC championship. I am not one of those people, and that's just because I don't have a dog in the fight. So it doesn't feel like it's as deflating to not see my team playing in that type of game. But to see these teams play in the regular season with what we've seen from them so far, this sets up really, really well. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like after last year's SEC championship, wherein Jalen Milroe got the last laugh on Kirby. Nick Saban got the last laugh on Kirby. And what does Kirby do on the defensive side of the ball to make those adjustments to try and contain Jalen Milroe? Because he couldn't get that guy off the field when he needed to down the stretch in the final 10 minutes of that game. And in this one, you would think, all right, Georgia should be set up better because you don't have Nick Saban on that other sideline making those adjustments. And what does it look like against Kalen DeBoer, this new offense that I think Jalen Milroe has done a really good job in for the most part so far? And there have been some moments, specifically the USF game. But I think that this is just such a star-studded matchup. And for all the talk about, these types of games meaning less in the 12-team playoff era, I beg to differ. I think the winner of this game has a huge leg up to be able to punch their ticket to Atlanta and potentially get a bye to be able to get that break in the first round of the college football playoff.
I want to agree with you, too, about saying these regular season games don't matter with the 12-team playoff. Use it as an example, college basketball. If your team's not any good, yeah, maybe so. As an Auburn grad with Bruce Pearl there, every single game, you're on the edge of your seat. So I totally agree with you. I think it's great, Connor, as we get into November all over the country. Most every team in the top 25 is going to be saying, hey, we got a chance. That's nothing but good.
It is. It's fun. And it creates a lot of conversation that we wouldn't be having. I think that you can look across the SEC right now with how top heavy it feels and wonder, okay, how many of these teams are getting into the playoff? And how significant are some of these games going to be? Like, it's fun that you can be a team like Illinois, for example. Illinois plays that game Friday night at Nebraska.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Nebraska was an 8-point favorite, despite the fact that they haven't won a top 25 game in 7 years. And for whatever reason, people like to crown Nebraska because of confirmation bias. And I can say that because I spent 2.5 years there and love the people of the great state of Nebraska. But
I gotta love people in Lincoln, right? I mean, it's a great town, man.
I love Lincoln. Proposed to my wife in Lincoln. I'm
a great town.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Big fan. But the reason that they get the benefit of the doubt after beating a 4-win Colorado team is because they're Nebraska. Like let's call it what it is. Yeah. But for a team like Illinois with Brett Bielema would not be sniffing the 14 playoff era. Their goal right now would be, man, can we be like 8-4? Maybe be in the New Year's Six Bowl conversation. And instead, they get to look at this path and know that they don't have the divisions to work through or anything like that. And they can have this path to the playoff where those conversations are a lot more fun. They're more nationally relevant just as a result of that. And I'm in favor of that. I didn't need to switch off of 4. I didn't need to. I wasn't like begging for it, but I do like that we can have some of those conversations about these teams.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, like in Memphis, now people are going, all right, Tigers have got to win every game to be that team. You go up and get just bushwhacked by Navy. That's college football. It's great. All right, I got to ask you another one. Right in your backyard, and I'm a big Mike Norvell fan because I watched what he built at Memphis. But when they laid down in the Orange Bowl last year, it's just they haven't been able to come back. How long is it going to take him to rebuild the culture? Because when 31 guys quit, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable.
I wish my backyard were 5 hours deep and I could, go from Orlando to Tallahassee that quickly. No, look, I think Mike Norvell and the job that he did last year, not even just last year, but the year before in 22, where people put him on the hot seat and then they win, what do they win? Like 6 in a row to end the season. And it's a double-digit win season. I applaud Mike Norvell for that. But we're all seeing the cracks in the foundation when you build the roster the way that he did. Yeah. I think it's a testament to him and his ability to evaluate the portal that 9 of the 10 guys that he had drafted were former transfers. Now, I do think that there is clearly a method to his madness, but at the same time, you see the way that it's played out this year. It's not just the quarterback that they've gotten wrong. They had big expectations for what that defensive line was going to be able to do in a post-Jared versus Braden Fisk world, and it hasn't looked the part so far. And it's been a real struggle. I do think that it's going to take, probably at least, 2 years to get back to that level where we're saying Florida State should be competing for an ACC championship again. Yeah. They've fallen off this year to the point where we're wondering if they're going to be able to make it to a bowl game. And it's just a reminder, those championship windows, man, they're just never as big as we think that they are. And Florida State having that happen last year with Jordan Travis and that injury, it just feels like, for lack of a better term, a seminal moment for that program in the direction that they're trying to go.
Yeah, it kind of felt it's like scoring a touchdown, missing the field goal, right? It's like you talk all this smack. The same with Georgia. Like the way things ended last year was just sort of a sour taste. I was curious of your take on what's happening in Gainesville. I just got off a podcast with Urban Meyer. We did with my father, Buddy Martin. We do once a week during football season. We were just discussing how Florida's in a bye week, but UCF. What's happening in Orlando? Does Florida start getting worried about that game? But, when I asked Urban, hey, UCF's up and coming, Orlando, what a fun town. He's like, yeah, but it's not Florida, right? It's never going to be Florida. How, I guess the question is how much is Florida at risk from losing its culture, after this sort of 10 years of just disappointment? And now you've got Billy Napier and what's going to happen with him and all of this kind of stuff. It just seems like a cluster, no?
I think there's going to be a real reality check if UCF, with that number 2 rushing attack in college football behind only Navy, so it's the number 1 non-service academy rushing attack, four deep with KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey. If you haven't seen the UCF rushing attack, like it's really good this year. If they come into the swamp and do what others have done, which is run all over that run defense, I put in air quotes because it's not.
No.
There are going to be heads rolling. And there will be, you thought it was depressing seeing Miami take over in that season opener. Buddy, if you think, I didn't mean to say buddy. You
can do it. It's normal. I go by buddy. It's cool. Yeah. It's cool.
I meant buddy more from a broad sense.
I get it. It's fine.
If you think it was bad to see Miami fans take over that building, y'all know UCF Twitter. Wait till you see it in person. If that's the scene, Scott Strickland, I think his future, very unlikely at Florida. I don't buy these reports that he's going to be choosing the next coach. I don't buy that 1% because if Scott Strickland's floating that out there, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I would expect the athletic director to say that. I don't think athletic directors in the SEC, even in everything school like Florida, I don't think you get to hire a football coach 3 times. And I don't think you get to just say, yeah, you know what, our $60 million investment in Billy Napier, it didn't really work out. Let me try this again. But I'll get it right this time. I'll be good. No, that's not how this works. And I do think that there's going to be decisions that are made in the very, very near future. I think it's a horrible matchup for Florida coming up, even coming off the bye week. I'd be scared to death of that if I'm a Florida fan right now.
I am scared to death of that, so you know. I can't imagine losing to Orlando.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Now, got another one, Connor. You know, last night, all my Ole Miss friends at this Delta Waterfowl dinner I was at last night, they're all Ole Miss guys. They go, I still wish Hugh Freeze was our coach. He said, y'all can't fire him. I said, he's not going to be fired this week. But he rolled the dice on Peyton Thorne. Said, I'll go out and get you skill players. I'll go buy them in the NIL. And he did it, and he came back. But the same problems Peyton had last year are there again this year. You're a good doctor type, you know. Let's play the role of Bob Newhart. And Auburn fans are going, well, we're doing everything. We're buying NIL. We're doing it. But you got no quarterback. Do you go with Peyton Thorne, or do you say, Hank Brown, let's just go with you and go for the future?
I'm not going with Hank Brown. I'd be just, hey, new guy every week. It's a start at this point. Because Peyton Thorne's not the answer. He's not the answer. At this stage of his career, a guy, like, he was benched, I think, in 4 different games at Michigan State. I mean, think about that. A guy that's benched in game that many times. And still, by the end of this offseason, I had talked myself into Peyton Thorne being the most improved player in the SEC because I was like, you know what? Another year in that Hugh Freeze offense, if you kind of look at the history of the post-spring quarterback transfers and what they do their first year with the program, it's really difficult. And it's a limited kind of dumbed-down version of the offense, and maybe a full offseason with the improved weapons, which the weapons are better. That's the thing. It's like Keandre Lambert-Smith was a great post-spring addition from Penn State. Like Cam Coleman has had moments where you've really seen the potential. Like I do think that there was some logic behind that, but the brutal pill to swallow is when you see it play out like this. And we're like, well, it's the same Peyton Thorne as what you saw last year. And he is who he is at this point of his career, when Hugh Freeze could have gone into the portal and gotten a guy who maybe not as expensive as Cam Ward, right? Because that was the thing is like, you can either spend big on someone like Cam Ward or spend on the weapons around him. And if Cam Ward doesn't have weapons, then who really cares? What about Jordan McLeod? What about Jordan McLeod coming over from James Madison, a guy that was in the portal for like 3 months and ends up at Texas State? Like, there's no world in which Auburn couldn't have afforded Jordan McLeod. And instead, he ends up going to a place that's a lot better for his skill set with G.J. Kinney and what he's doing there. And Auburn is left going, man, if we just had Graham Mertz, would we be 4-0 at this point of the season? Like, it's a terrible look for Hugh Freeze. The post-game comments have certainly not been a good look. No. It's just bad vibes all around. It makes me wonder, like, if he's a Northerner like Brian Harsin was, and if he was at this spot, would we be talking about him coaching for his job this week?
Well, I'll say this about transfer portal quarterbacks. DJ Uiagalelei, he's another example. That nothing changed. You know, zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes. That's what's going on here. I mean, Peyton 4 times benched at Michigan State. It just doesn't. It doesn't. You can move him to Southern Cal. It wouldn't matter. And that's I like that analysis. And I think Freeze recruiting wise, now you got to hold these classes together. And the fans have got to understand the people I know that get to go to practice at Auburn will tell you these freshmen and the upperclassmen, which are few and far between other than portal guys, there's a 180-degree difference. So you got 2 more years you've got to recruit. I don't know if you get that long in this world.
Yeah, I don't think you do. And Hugh Freeze has talked about how difficult it is for him as a relationships guy to have these 24-hour relationships. And I think even with Keandre Lambert-Smith, that was like an awkward thing of like, I get that he's kind of the setting the market in a very thin post-spring portal, but like we kind of just need to go and get this guy. And even if it means overpaying, and I don't think he was particularly comfortable with that. Turns out it's been one of his best decisions that he's made in the offseason with how well he started. But the funny thing is like, Freeze has been a transfer quarterback guy. I mean, Malik Willis, look what he did at Liberty. And he got a full season to be able to redshirt after he got there. And he wasn't able to play immediately because of NCAA rules, but like got to learn the offense and figure things out and was better for it. Go back to Ole Miss. I mean, what was Chad Kelly? Chad Kelly's a transfer, comes in. And he had to learn the Hugh Freeze offense. So like this notion that Freeze, when it comes to quarterbacks, has to be like the Dabo Sweeney, and it's like, hey, you're homegrown or you're not. Like he hasn't even been that guy. So I like that's the troubling thing. I think that he gets this sticker shock, but yeah, it's not a particularly good situation right now. I have no idea where the answers are going to come from.
Well, when you think about it, let's look at Ole Miss right now. Now let's look at Arkansas. Think about them. Talon Green, we saw him. We talked to him at SEC Media Days. Big kid from Metro Dallas. Bobby Petrino. I'll say this. Peyton Thorne, you'll hear, he's a fine young man, a nice young man, but he's not a quarterback, okay? Bobby Petrino, he's this or he's that, but he wins everywhere he goes. What do you think about the job he's doing at Arkansas to this point with what he's got? And the portal has certainly benefited him.
Tell you what, Robert Patrick Petrino, he still got it. And if you were paying attention at Texas A&M last year, you knew that because there were a lot of people who were like, Jimbo Fisher got fired. The Bobby Petrino experiment didn't work. Bull crap. They had 3 different starting quarterbacks start multiple games, and they improved by 11 points per game last year. Now, you could debate how much is Bobby Petrino actually running that offense, was Jimbo Fisher pulling all the strings, whatever. You're seeing it at Arkansas because some of the scheming that he's doing is phenomenal. And they have a true identity, despite the fact that Talon Green is still too mistake-prone for my liking. And I would be terrified about what it's going to look like in a couple weeks against that Tennessee defense. Yeah. But you still see all the different wrinkles that Petrino has, and they run tempo well. He gives his quarterback the freedom to be able to make plays with his legs. They have a guy in Jaquinta Jackson that they can turn to, and they finish drives in the red zone. Yeah. And there's still a bit of kind of a Jekyll and Hyde offense from drive to drive because of the decision-making of Talon Green, but they do have a team that feels like it's kind of maximizing its potential right now. And for Sam Pittman, for his future, guys, look at the schedule. If they win this weekend against Texas A&M,
I know they will.
They're set up really well to be able to get to that 7-win mark, even though the rest of the schedule is really, really difficult. But the start that they've had so far is because we saw Sam Pittman be willing to go out and say, I don't care if Bobby Petrino, if I'm going to take a hit from the PR standpoint, I'm going to bring this guy back. I think he's still got it. I think he's still run my offense. He's going to bring in his quarterback. And sure enough, like it's worked out, and Arkansas is reaping the benefits for that.
Yeah, and we're going to be up in Fayetteville. Audrey and I are going up there for the Tennessee game as a guest of our good friend, Jim McClellan and his wife. I'm so excited about it. We're going up Thursday through Sunday. I told him before the season, I said, guys, what caught me about Talon Green, what's it like, I said, playing for Bobby Petrino? And he goes, when he walks in the room, you better be sitting up straight, shirt tail tucked in, looking ahead, and you take the playbook in the shower with you, to bed with you, and everywhere. And that pays off. I got to ask you another one. Is Mike Elko, smart guy from the Northeast. He'd been at A&M before, left, and came back. So he's got a good perspective. What do you think about the job they're doing, and how good is A&M? Because they're stuck on 8-4. They're not the only school stuck on 8-4, but it's getting to, they've had 1 double-digit win season in this millennium with all the money and all that talent.
Yeah, I think it's a team that we still have a lot of questions about, despite the fact that they went into the swamp and dominated with a backup quarterback, and it was their first true road win in almost 3 years. I think there are still a lot of questions. I want to see Connor Wigman healthy, because Connor Wigman, I think people are kind of discounting what he meant to that program. They didn't go out and get someone in the portal because they liked the fit of Wigman running that Colin Klein offense. And I kind of want to see what that looks like, not against Notre Dame. Like, let's see him healthy and actually able to play against SEC competition. But I do think that this is a job that I think Mike Elko is the right person to step in and kind of steady things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all of a sudden going to start winning SEC championships or that they're going to be the creme de la creme and they're going to be beating Texas on an annual basis or anything like that. But you need to not be a joke. You need to not be a laughing stock because that's
what's killed Napier. Like in a lot of ways, like you can't. It's not the way. It's not almost losing. It's the way you're doing it.
You can't be a punching bag in this sport. No. And for too many years, A&M has been that. I mean, they are that because they just paid someone $76 million not to work. And that's going to follow them until they can get out of it. And it can still end up being the right decision, but it's the right decision if you get a guy that can come in and give you playoff relevance late into the season. Like if they're playing that Texas game and we're like, hey, does A&M have a shot to sneak into the 12-team playoff? Like I think we're having different conversations about Mike Elko. That's the place that he needs to get to. I don't think he'll get there year one, but I do think that that's eventually the path for him as somebody that I believe is really good at what he does. It's just going to be a matter of how does he handle some of those offensive minded decisions with quarterback battles, dealing maybe with one right now. What does it look like with future coordinator hires and that sort of thing?
Ole Miss Rebels was with a lot of Ole Miss fans last night at dinner. You look at Lane Kiffin and his quarterback room. You look at Steve Sarkisian and his quarterback room. Nobody has anything like we have at Texas. But Walker Howard has slipped down to like number 3, 5-star out of Lafayette, Jamie Howard's son. Talk about Ole Miss. And their fans are like kind of out there going, well, we still hadn't played anybody. I was with some of their diehards last night. That's just a back-end loaded schedule they always seem to have.
Yeah, it's perfectly fair to have that stance if you're an Ole Miss fan. Like, look, they look like they're on autopilot in these games. They're up 14-0 before you even sit down in your seat. I mean, it's unbelievable. Correct. I'll be like flipping over to Ole Miss because they'll be playing at 6:30 or 7 o'clock like that. And I'm like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, something like that. It's already 14-0. You're just like, okay, so this one's over because they don't have anybody on that schedule so far that can slow down what they're doing offensively and defensively. That was the big question coming in is how are they going to use all those pieces that they got in the transfer portal and can they take that next step? And it's TBD on that. And Walter Nolan so far really, really looks the part, which he was a guy that I was saying like he needs to stay healthy and actually show us he can be that guy. So far, so good with that. Princely Amon Mielen, Florida's only all SEC defensive player the last 3 years who dogged that Florida coaching staff as soon as he got there. He looks the part already. That's troubling, I think, for Florida fans, but that's a different subject for a different time. I think Ole Miss is doing everything that you could have hoped for. Jackson Dart, as long as that guy stays healthy, man, the offensive potential is just through the roof. Like Trey Harris is having a season that needs to be talked about more. Guys realize, like, if he gets 79 receiving yards this week in a difficult matchup against Maxwell Harrison, who's a really good cover corner for Kentucky, if he gets 79 yards, he will have the most pre-October receiving yards of any power conference receiver since Brandon Cooks in 2013 at Oregon State. I mean, think about the season that he is having so far. To me, he's one of the best receivers in all of college football. He's on that very short list. Yeah, Ole Miss has done everything to pass the eye test, but there's always going to be that, but what does it look like when they go into LSU in a couple of weeks? What does it look like against Georgia? That'll be what defines how we talk about this Ole Miss team.
And you find when you've got a really good team and you're just mowing everybody down, you start going, well, we hadn't played anybody. No, it's not that. It's that you're pretty damn good. And I cannot let this segment go by before you leave now without recognizing Indiana. Kurt Cignetti coming over from James Madison. Y'all, Hoosiers are scoring a lot of points, man. I know you're a proud alumnus of Indiana. It's a damn good school. I mean, it's a really good school. And when, we thought Tom Allen a few years ago was the man. But Cignetti's, I think he's pretty cool. And you got Maryland coming up in the timeout game. I call that one the 12 noon Eastern, 11 Central Saturday.
Yeah, it's actually getting to the point already where I think there are some Indiana fans who are like, can he maybe go like 8-4 year one, and then so that people aren't like he doesn't instantly get poached or something like that, because that's what's going to end up happening with this. Like I've seen this movie before. Is he's going to be like too good for this job? And once upon a time, I mean, that was the concern with Tom Allen. You're right. Like, man, would someone come in and poach Tom Allen? Could he be a candidate? I remember they were talking about him. I think he was a candidate for the Ole Miss job because he had spent time there as an assistant as well. And then Lane ultimately got that, and that made more sense for them with what they were doing. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be the biggest concern. That's such like an Indiana football problem to have. They're really trying to sell out that game against Maryland this weekend. It's not an easy thing to do to be able to sell out football games there, but have some relevance on the football side before basketball season starts. It's like the thing that Kentucky deals with on an annual basis. Is like you can't be just irrelevant by the time the basketball calendar rolls around, because forget about it if you are. And, fortunately for IU, that's not been the case so far.
Before you leave, let us all know a story that nobody's talking about that we need to be paying attention to, that you'll be writing about, and then how they can follow you at Saturday Down South. And as always, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. You're one of the best, and just y'all hunker down, dog term, hunker down, dogs, but be ready for that storm. But love having you on here.
Yeah, appreciate you saying that. Really do. This football season, I think, has presented a lot of different, unique angles. I think that I'm going to be writing a lot more about. I think that the fact that the SEC has not had a black head coach since Derek Mason came and went, I think that's a real shame. And I think there are a lot of really good candidates where the SEC has its longest drought of a black head coach since before Sylvester Croom came to Mississippi State. Yeah. And to me, I think there are a lot of great candidates that are emerging right now with Travis Williams, the job he's doing in that Arkansas defense, Tim Banks, the job he's doing.
Love Travis.
There are candidates. Trey Scott's a guy that needs to be running his own program. Charles Huff is doing great things at Marshall and would be an awesome fit in the SEC. Like Danton Lynn is doing awesome things as a USC defensive coordinator, even though they lost to Michigan. But like, we need black coaches in the SEC, and it's been largely swept under the rug. And I'm not necessarily sitting here saying that it needs to be like, oh my gosh, like there needs to be an equal amount or anything like that. But it's kind of messed up that the history has played out the way that it has, because there are definitely some qualified candidates, and I think that's something that I'll be digging into a little bit more.
Just hire the best. Travis is a young Kevin Steele. He's
awesome.
That's been his mentor out of Spring High School in Columbia, South Carolina. Watched him at Auburn. Stayed at the same school for 5 years. I mean, he didn't transfer, but and I'll tell you another one I like is Marcus Woodson, who's also on that staff at Arkansas, defensive backs coach. Marcus has been at Florida State. He's been with Norvell at Memphis, Fresno State, but it's going to be fun to watch. But man, the biggest thing I think I take away from this is what you said about these transfer quarterbacks. It's every time you come on here, the takeaway. But man, it's the hardest position to find. And you think Oklahoma's, by the way, regretting letting Dylan Gabriel go to Oregon?
Man, golly, it's just a reminder. Like, we saw Jackson Arnold at SEC Media Days. Like he was there. They've invested a ton into him, and he was right behind Arch and Nico in those recruiting rankings last year. And they're already like, I guess we're willing to move on from him. Like, man, this sport is it's absolutely crazy.
All right, take care. We'll do it again soon, man.
Thanks, Connor. Love your writing, man. Love your stuff. Thanks for doing it.
Gentlemen, really appreciate it. Be well.
Thank you.
You too.
Check out Connor O'Gara. We got
Connor O'Gara. Can you guess that's an Irish Catholic name?
No, it's not Irish Catholic.
All right, Dudley. Look, I'm going to tell you, last week, I was on Jake Wimberly's show Friday afternoon at 3:30. And he goes, let's look at games in the SEC, Rob. What do you think about Arkansas and Auburn? I said, I'm taking the Hogs. I said, in the interest of full disclosure, I graduated from the Alabama Polytechnic Institute, known as Auburn. But I don't see how they score. And Bobby Petrino will keep you up at night because he'll exploit whatever weaknesses you have. But I did think Arkansas would win. They did. And now, what were your takeaways from that game? And you got A&M, a major PETA. That game has been a thorn in Arkansas's side. How important is it that you get the W? Because next year, you finally play up in Fayetteville. Welcome to the show, as always.
Well, I appreciate it. That was a master class, wasn't it, on how to play football? Not on Saturday. I mean, it was right up there with Arkansas and Mississippi State last year. But I mean, you got to give Arkansas credit. Got out of there with the win. I was trying to tell some of the fans here the other day who were upset that they didn't play better. Look, what do y'all think y'all are? You can't, poo-poo a road win in the SEC. I don't care how bad the quarterback situation is at the other school. You had to make plays. You got it done. You at the end of the ball game, and after Taylor Green came out and was sit down for a series to figure out what he was doing there, came back straight touchdown, score drive, and would have given him a win, and that's big. Now, I would have never given the thought that they would have had the opportunity to be 4-1 sitting right here as they go to Texas A&M, but that's where the situation's at, and other than the quarterback at UNLV, I think that's a pretty interesting story. How I hate this college game, some of the aspects of it now. The UNLV quarterback is redshirting now because he didn't get his NIL money. Check didn't clear, I guess, whatever it is. Just unbelievable. And they're 3-0, man.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, we're going through a market correction in college football. And I think fans are so emotional. Guys have always transferred, but they think now any stud player, if he's not playing a lot, he's going to leave. They're not. I mean, they're like anybody else. My son, as much as he loves Auburn, the first weekend I left him down there, he goes, man, all my friends are at Ole Miss. And I said, hey, you committed and you're going to finish. And he did. And I think what I see with Arkansas is Sam Pittman, the relief on his face walking off the field at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and then the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Hugh Freeze looked like he'd been embalmed, excoriated. And I think, hey, you roll the dice on Peyton Thorne. I didn't realize till Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South in the previous segment, said Peyton Thorne had been benched 4 different times when he was the quarterback at Michigan State. I didn't know that. About Taylor Green, Granddaddy Longlegs, Matt Jones, 6'7". Taylor's close to that. Who's faster, in your opinion?
Boy, that's a tough call. I'd like to have gotten them together during their prime, and Matt Jones is carrying this big old mountain man type Ducks.
John Daly.
Yeah, beard thing working here, so that might slow him down a little bit. But they both have those long strides, and both were not necessarily polished passers, but they made plays, and that's one of the things that has impressed me about Taylor. I mean, his footwork needs to get better. I've talked about on the easy throws how it seems to sell those a little bit. I'm sure that Coach Petrino is going to keep working with him on that. But man, he makes plays when he's got to make plays, and the scramble and the toss up to Isaiah Satega, that was really something. And by the way, if I come on this show 10 times, 9 times out of those 10, I'm going to say, what in the world was Hugh Freeze drinking on Monday night? When that's the thinking or drinking on Monday night, saying that they had beat them 9 out of the next 10 times. I mean, that's
I don't like that.
Take your L.
Yeah, suck it up, man up. God bless America. Get over it. I mean, I look. He's frustrated, but give credit. I'm a Shook Jordan, Pat Dye. Give all the credit in the world to that team across the way in the other locker room. They deserve the win. But I'm going to say this about our squad. We got to get better. It's on us as coaches. And you and I are the same age. We're old school, but the right school. You don't publicly just wear somebody out. You do it in private. You think they do that in the Marine Corps, and they don't know. It's done like you think. My brother-in-law said, he was a gunnery sergeant. He said, you got to save it for special occasions, but give credit to the other team. And I don't like it when people say the best team didn't win. Yeah, they did. That's why they keep score on that day at that time. And I'm going up to Fayetteville for the Tennessee game. We're going up Thursday night. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. I am excited. I am really excited because I got a lot of Arkansas friends. I got friends of every fan base that we cover on this show. And, man, they're like, let's talk about that A&M matchup because Dallas-Fort Worth is the biggest alumni base in America outside of Arkansas for Arkansas. and there'll be a ton of your fans there, and there'll be a lot of Aggies too.
It's been a great series in terms of the fans being able to show up and enjoy Dallas and see a lot of their friends from different places, and it hadn't gone well for Arkansas in terms of wins and losses here lately, but I think it's helped them out some in recruiting. But I think everybody is thrilled that it's coming back to campuses. Arkansas's coaches, Texas A&M's coaches, fans, all that. They basically quit putting Cowboy games on Sunday. After that, I'd always stay down there extra day to watch the Cowboys. But now it's going to be at home sites. This is still ridiculous that this will be Arkansas's 5th game, and they've played one in Fayetteville. It had to do with playing a game in Little Rock, obviously, to start the season, and then this one in Arlington. So they're getting that right. Was listening to Rick Schaefer talk before the Oklahoma State game, and he talked about how Coach Broyles used to want to have 7 games, 7 home games, 4 in Little Rock, 3 in Fayetteville, and 3 on the road. And now we're sitting here, 1 time in Fayetteville. So far, it's nuts, but it's about to, as you say, correct itself.
Yeah, I mean, the free market works this stuff out. Can't help but notice Blind Squirrel Sports, one of our viewers, love this guy. I got to say this. He's a big Georgia fan. One of my favorite Larry Munson calls of all time. Georgia and Tennessee, 2000, 2001. David Green's driving them down the field. He hits Michael Haynes for the touchdown. He goes, "We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot, and we broke their nose." Oh, God. Dudley, let's think about this. Frank Broyles, great quote. Tim Horton told me he told him and his dad this. If you know you've made the bad high, get rid of them. Don't wait. I mean, I love that quote. Frank Broyles Field. Did they make a big deal out of that when they dedicated it to him? Because isn't he from South Georgia?
Yes, yeah.
Played for Bobby Dodd at Georgia Tech. He is absolutely the Heisman Trophy winner for athletic directors. Because what he did was he brought coaches and business leaders together. That's how they made tremendous wealth. There will never be a better duo than Gracie and Burns, and 2 peas in a pod, and Frank Broyles and Keith Jackson. Look at Bo Jackson, Keith, running a 9.500. Oh my! That doesn't get any better. All right.
Well, this picture behind me.
You live in the stadium, don't you?
Pretty much. This picture behind me it's here not because of the coaches that have been here lately. It's here because of Coach Broyles and how he turned the Arkansas program into being able to fund itself with donations throughout the state. Did a wonderful job on that. And obviously the decision to jump into the SEC, which a lot of us were, hey, let's see how it goes. Sounds good, but let's see how it goes. That's why they've got this behind me right now, and all the other stuff that's behind it in terms of facilities to work out in. I mean, he was a visionary, and I was very fortunate that at the tail end of his athletic director career was the beginning of my sports writing career. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time with him. I was, for lack of a better way to say it, I was a go-to it between Coach Broyles and Coach Richardson there at one time. That was interesting. Refused to testify at the trial because for both sides, and I just didn't see how that would help me out. But he was a great visionary at what he did. Not every decision he made was right. Not everything that came out of his mouth was right. But the behind me right now is a testament to what he did. Yeah.
It's a giant shareholders meeting is what I call football stadiums. And if you buy season tickets, if you're a coach, just remind those kids before they run out of the tunnel that there are thousands of people out there who sacrificed more than you'll ever know to come pull for you. So go out there. If you're thinking about taking it easy and quitting, think twice, because these people are watching you. They're the ones you're going to go to looking for jobs when you graduate. Some of you will make it in the NFL. Most of you won't. But your legacy, what you do out here, is going to last forever. Frank Broyles did that. You think about David Basil and the Broyles Award is the top assistant in the touchdown club. That's a big deal. He's from Panama City. I think he went to Mosley. I think. Yeah. Good guy. All right. Let's talk about Vince Ferrara is going to join us from the Sports Animal in Knoxville in just a minute. Got to think right now, you look around the SEC, Georgia, Bama this weekend, that's got a lot of people's attention. What's going on at Texas? Every week it changes. Texas, I know it's Mississippi State, and they're not very good this year, but they're getting into conference games. The hits will be a little harder. The grind will start to come in. I still don't see Texas going undefeated this season. Give me your kind of 10,000-foot view of the SEC right now, what you think is happening and where we're heading.
Well, I think I know who the three best teams are for sure. That's Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. I mean, we can throw Ole Miss in the mix as well. Missouri stumbled a little bit last week, but it's better to stumble and still win. You've got some other decent teams, obviously, there. But those are the three teams at the top right now. I'm not going to sit here and predict that Texas doesn't go undefeated. They legitimately are back now, it looks like. Yeah. Not only do they have one quarterback, they have two. So that's not going to be an issue if Quinn Ewers can't come back and be the quarterback that he was. They have finally, these recruiting rankings and these recruiting signings have finally taken hold to where they have depth. You often bring up the fact that I say 1 to 42, 43 to 85. They look really good 1 to 85. And I think that they legitimately have a chance to win the SEC. I still won't pick them over Georgia until, they beat them. But I think those are three legitimate teams that, and we know there's 6 or 7 that have a chance to be in the top 12 and be in the playoffs. But growing up in Arkansas and hating Texas as you're wont to do, once I go objective about this now, I am very impressed with what they're doing. And while Michigan isn't great this year, I still don't care. You win.
Yeah, you go to the big house and beat them like that. You got to get some brownie points for that. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. Dudley, here's another one. Looking at the quarterbacks, Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Can we put Texas in a separate category in terms of elite quarterback play? Outside of that, I want to ask you about Georgia with Carson Beck. They don't really – Roman Harper was on the show Friday. Talked about they don't really have the edge players, those impact wide receivers. No Brock Bowers, no Ladd McConkey, who was very undervalued in the eyes of most fans, but not by the NFL. I think he was a second-round pick, but kind of, you look at Satanga for Arkansas. Wow, that guy's good. The running back, Quindon Jackson, is good. Why do some schools just go grocery shopping and forget to buy vegetables? They just, we don't need a quarterback. We got great players around them. You're looking at 7-5, 8-4 at best when you do that. But I'm curious what you think about Georgia.
Yeah, the statement always has been if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. I'm going to be a little different on that, with Texas. And I think that's where they're ahead of everybody in terms of the quarterback. Where they have 2 that, I think could legitimately lead you to a national championship. I'm not sure everybody else has that. I mean, the team that the Arkansas playing this weekend has Connor Wigman and Marcel Reed, both very good quarterbacks, but I don't put a national championship label on them. Carson Beck has been a very good quarterback for Georgia. It's tough sometimes, I think, to really realize how good he is when you have a team around you that's so good. He's going to have some games this year where he's going to have to be the dude. Brock Bowers isn't going to be there. Some of the other playmakers they have aren't going to be there. They still have plenty, but he's going to have to make more plays this year to get them to the finish line than he did last year. I just think that, and I can't believe I'm saying such positive things about Texas, but they just have 2 quarterbacks that I think they are better stocked to avoid an injury, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They have more positive when a negative situation happens.
Yeah. Before we bring in Vince, I want to say something about our great sponsors. HouseIndustriesInc.com. Chad House, met one of his salesmen yesterday, Brent Hunter. Man, he's selling ag equipment from right here in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, out in California, in the Central Valley, Australia, all over America. They make the aerators that you use on catfish farms. They've got the Camelback for irrigation, the better roller, the pulverizer, the better chopper. Unbelievable. Bottom line, it is harvest time, Dudley, right now. And you have to see this to appreciate it. There is no more efficient businessman in the world than the American farmer. Family farms, we've lost a lot of them. Bottom line, House Industries Inc., we're damn proud to have them as a sponsor. Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, absolutely. Guys, the fall stuff is coming in every day. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. All those good-looking clothes that you love, Filson, Duckhead, STS, Yellowstone. I think Beth would shop there. Rip shops at Hewlett & Dunn. Rip definitely does. And you know who else? I love this guy, Vince Ferrara. Vince, hey, man, I know your Mama Ferrara, is down there in Tampa saying our prayers, man, to be safe. Are you going down to Tampa, or what's the situation there? We got the hurricane. We're heading down to Auburn Friday. Hopefully it's going to be out of there by then. But just give us an update on that, and then let's talk about the Tennessee Volunteers and the checkerboard end zone.
Yeah, no, I'm not going down there. Certainly, we're supposed to be getting weather up here in Tennessee for it. Doesn't look like it'll be a direct hit. So unless something's changed here recently, but no, they're good. Just hunker down, and Tampa has, fortunately for everybody there, been kind of on the edge, not taking the direct hit. So will be some strong weather for sure, but looks like the Panhandle area will get it worse. So yeah, been there, done that for them for sure. But looking forward to talking Tennessee. How about that road performance for the Vols last week? And I appreciate you asking about the family, by the way.
Absolutely. Hey, last week when we were talking about the Tennessee game, I told people, I said, I think Tennessee will struggle early. Nico C and Brent Venable's defense, because they're coming at him. And then I think Tennessee will pull away, win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Cool bit of trivia. Josh Heupel, in games where they scored 30 points or less, prior to Saturday, or now with Saturday's game, they're 1-12. They don't normally win those games. How good is this Tennessee defense of Coach Banks? Because I think they're I don't use undervalued, I think underappreciated by most people, because they look at the offense and those pinball wizard numbers.
Well, I think it's an adjustment for people, right? Actually, it's an adjustment for Tennessee fans, for them to talk about their defense. It's been a long time since that's been the case. One of the TV shows that I'm a rotating panelist on, the Sports Source on the local ABC station, he did the host, John Pennington, did a poll asking all the viewers, hey, what area of this Tennessee football team do you have the most confidence in? And the defense, far and away throughout the entire show, was number one, and the offense was last in terms of percentage of confidence. Like, what are we doing? Are we still talking about the same team? But it shows you how quickly those things can change. But I think that's what it is. It's just we're not used to. People are still learning about them, so I don't have any ill will towards people, being slow to catch up. Even analysts, because the analysts, they got to kind of lock into their games they're doing, maybe their conferences, and then try to expand when they can. So it is a little bit newer, but honestly, they're better than what a lot of us here that cover the team, even we thought. And a big part of that is one, the depth is real on that D line, but two, you've had a healthy linebacking core, which they did not have all of last year. So you're seeing the benefits from that. And you didn't know about the secondary that was retooled. And they look more athletic and faster on all levels of their defense. And maybe the group that shows that out the most is the secondary. Jermon McCoy, the transfer from Oregon State, he's their best transfer in. and he looks like a lockdown corner. Had his first interception, a pass breakup, even on a play where one of his teammates jumped off sides. He encroached on the receiver to make it a dead ball. He touched the receiver in press coverage, so it wouldn't be a free play for the offense. And then Ricky Gibson's playing well at the other corner, so they're not giving up big plays. That now, to be fair, they have not faced a top-notch offense as of yet. Yeah. So there's still some boxes to be checked, but in terms of that defense, they've pretty much checked them all so far. Yeah.
Dudley, by the way, I'm getting some stuff on my phone about the UNLV quarterback who is, the thing I thought would happen first would be somebody getting in trouble with the IRS for not paying taxes, because someone I know that works with an NIL collective at an unnamed school out here in America told me back in the spring, one of their student athletes said, "Why do I have to pay taxes on the money I've already spent?" Living brain donor right there. Dudley, you heard what Vince just said, about the team and the personnel. Looking at Tennessee and Arkansas, they're going to play in a couple of weeks, but they both, obviously this weekend, Tennessee plays the University of Off, so they will not be playing. But Arkansas plays Texas A&M. What's the talk among fans? There's no anxiety ever. It's all people. Everybody's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But what's the mental state of Arkansas fans right now heading into that A&M game? I'm going to go back and forth because I got a bunch of questions that I want to ask both of y'all.
Well, I would say that two things that came out of this win at Auburn. Number one, there are some fans who are excited again about the football team. There are some others who said, well, Auburn can't be any good, and it wasn't that big a win, yada, yada, this. I mean, those are the two sides of the thing. You got the ones who are going to be positive. If they're positive, they're going to be negative if that's the mindset they take it into. But here Arkansas is the chance to be I'm losing my mind now. Chance to be 4-1, and then have there's not very many great games the following week. So College game day has even creeped into this possible situation. I'm told. So if Arkansas takes care of its business and Tennessee handles off, then I think that that would be fun. That would be fun. Yeah. Now, you're not going to get my butt up at 8 a.m. to go down to the stadium for a 6:30 p.m. game, but I watch it. I'll tape it and watch it on TV.
Yeah.
And it'll be fun because I think they're going to have a fall baseball scrimmage Friday night as well. So it could be a big weekend up here, but you all have to go handle your business. And obviously, here's the problem: A&M has won 9 of the last 10 games down there in Arlington over Arkansas. And interestingly, Bobby Petrino never lost to them. And Mike Elko, when he was at Texas A&M, it was 2-1 over Arkansas. So you've got some folks here that have had success in that environment. They both sound excited about playing, but not as excited as the athletic directors in getting back a home game starting the following year.
Yeah, you can just see the money. Vince, interesting comments, Blind Squirrel Sports with Georgia. The problem with Tennessee is, from his Georgia fan, perspective, is Tennessee has such a good defense this year. Now, that's because they haven't been in a track meet shootout with a team, like you say, with a high-powered offense. Tennessee's depth on the front seven. Coach G, Rodney Garner, native son of Leeds, Alabama. By the way, right there on I-20, about 11 miles east of Birmingham, there is a Buc-ee's there in Leeds, and it's one of the best Buc-ee's I go to. Got really good snacks. Let's talk about, as you see with Tennessee, how do you think they'll do in a track meet? And did Nico pass the test? First road game, SEC and hostile SEC environment. What kind of grade did you give him? And just the team overall. It's not just him.
Definitely. Good questions, Rob. Let me say this real quick on what Dudley was saying about Arkansas. to your point, if Arkansas wins that game, guys, they're going to be ranked. So absolutely game day, we'll look into that. I'm with you. I haven't really looked to see what the other comparative options might be, but it would be ranked matchups. And I also don't get up to go down there in the festivities. You have to deal with the traffic and crowds and all that. We have enough of that going to the games, much less that. So I'll watch it on TV later. But they did a good job, representing Tennessee when they were in Norman and talking about them plenty. And then just love hearing Nick Saban break down the team that you cover in the X's and O's. So that will be cool for Arkansas fans to get his perspective on, what Arkansas is doing that's good and things like that. So that'll be a cool aspect if that does happen. As far as the depth on this D-line, they played 12 players against Oklahoma on that defensive line. So that's an SEC game. That's not a non-conference bad opponent where you're just playing a whole bunch of people in walk-ons. That's 12 scholarship players that they trusted to play on the road in the SEC opener at Oklahoma. So that should tell you that they're really good and really deep on that D-line. The guy that made the safety, third team. The guy that led them in tackles for loss, third team. They had 10 different players have at least a half a tackle for loss in the game, which meant there were several times where they had 2 and 3 guys back there to stop the ball carrier. Yeah. A bunch of negative plays in the run game for Oklahoma. They are legit. And the only thing that Oklahoma was able to do was the last couple of drives they were able to move the ball, got the 1 touchdown, and broke Tennessee's streak of 19 consecutive quarters, dating back to last year without giving up a touchdown when they gave up that fourth quarter score. And what happened was they went to Michael Hawkins, which to me, I was a little surprised that they had the hook on Jackson Arnold, who's really saved their backside in all the games prior to carrying them on his back. But the critical mistakes, the turnovers, things like that, Venables was done with it. But Hawkins he was a different type of runner, so he was able to run around. So there's some to think, well, maybe running quarterback is going to give Tennessee trouble. That was within the game, and that was also Tennessee playing back a little bit. When Tim Banks would crank it back up, then that's when they would get stops and turnovers. So that's where the interesting aspect of Taylon Green comes into play in looking ahead, because he is not only an elusive runner, but he is big, and there's that RPO stuff that you can do with him. Obviously, you've seen that element from him. I interviewed Taylon at SEC Football Media Days. I was impressed with him there. Watch some of his tape at Boise. So I think he will be by far the best quarterback that Tennessee has played to this point when they meet up. Obviously, as Dudley's and both of you guys know, there's been some inconsistencies here and there, but it'll be an interesting box potentially for Tennessee's defense to check to see if there is some issues at all with dual threat type of quarterback. So their defense is outstanding. And what were a couple other things you threw at me, Rob? I'm sorry.
Well, just looking, get into a track meet, and we'll ask Dudley about this. How do you think they'll hold up? Are they built for it? That looks like they are.
Right, and then Nico as well. I'm sorry. Track meet, I think if they really dialed it down. That was the biggest topic of conversation coming out of that Tennessee-Oklahoma game was Josh Heupel's managing of the game. I mean, he really, from the second quarter where they had their touchdown drive on the Sampson TD run, all runs, 8 runs, Sampson cashed it in with a touchdown on that drive. They reestablished the line of scrimmage and said, we're just going to be more physical than them, run the ball. And then here's the thing. Besides that is they lost both of their tackles in the game. They didn't have their starting left tackle and Lance Hurd going in. And then they lost John Campbell, the Miami transfer from 2 years ago. He went down during the game. So they had backup tackles. So that's another reason why Josh Heupel went to a more conservative approach in managing the game, is because when Tennessee turned the ball over, it was because of blindside sacks on Nico, and there were fumbles from that. So that's an area of concern. But Heupel managed the game. He didn't try to force the track meet or coach from reputation or emotion. and it's so crazy with fans, guys. I'm sorry, just a little side thing. Fans, like some fans are like, well, is Josh Heupel? I bet he's taking it easy on them because it's his alma mater. Are you kidding me? Seriously? Yeah. He's going to do that? So the talk going in was, would he run it up on his alma mater? Then he manages the game with advanced maturity as a coach, and now he's taking it easy? I mean, please. So, but to me, the only thing I probably would have done a little bit different is they had a 4th and 1 at Oklahoma's 14 with about 3:39 to go. I'm a little surprised they didn't try to pick up that first down. You eat up most of the clock, or if you punch it in, then your 3 scores up and it's really done. And then you trust your defense still being down 2 scores. Those are the only thing I probably would have done differently, but I think it showed Heupel's advancement of not forcing those track meets. So, yeah, I think they have the offense to do it if they have healthy tackles. It's hard to overcome if you have backups. And then Nico, there's been a couple of turnovers in a few games, but I think he bounces back from that. He's a flatliner. His throw to Dante Thornton over the middle of the field was beautiful. He handles himself with command of the offense and with poise. And he has that dual threat running ability. They needed a first down, went to an RPO run from him, and he made a guy miss and picked up the first down. Just a different special kind of talent. And they have the middle of the field open to them. And they don't just go to one receiver. They have a whole bunch of weapons on offense. So I think they would be okay in that track meet. I think Nico's done a fabulous job so far.
And they're hanging out with Morgan. And they're hanging out with Morgan. Yeah.
So. Tennessee baseball on Friday night, Dudley, and then Tennessee football on Sunday because he did the 2 shows. I mean, that's how well things are going for Tennessee right now. And how about Morgan Wallen living large too, you know?
That is definite.
And Dudley, that explanation he gave about the depth and where everybody's contributing and all, let's break that down with the Hogs. A&M.
There's not 12 defensive linemen here.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah,
there may be 12 here, but they're in 12 SEC defensive linemen here.
That's what I wanted to ask you is let's break that down because man, when you can go 2 and 3 deep in the portal era that we're in right now, and trust those guys, and that's a big deal. So talk about that. I got to step away for 1 second. My wife left one of her phones here and it's ringing off, and I'm about to go over there and pulverize it. I'll be right back. But Dudley, talk about that.
Happy life, man. What I would say is that Arkansas certainly has some very good defensive linemen, and Landon Jackson and Cam Ball and Nico Davier, and a couple of others who have played good snaps, but they certainly are nowhere near having 12. They'd like to have a legitimate half of that. That's probably the part of the defense.
Sorry, that was my phone.
The part of the defense that hadn't played as well, and you want to get better in the defensive line. I mean, it's the SEC after all, so you're going to have a defensive line to be able to compete. But they have, made some great plays. Just hadn't gotten enough pressure on the quarterback yet, and that was, I think, something that ended up costing them along with the turnovers at Oklahoma State. But yeah, every time you say 12, I hear Arkansas coaches over here go, because that is a one thing that you have to give Tennessee's coaches tons of credit for making sure, and I guess the right word is investing both figuratively and literally these days in getting that defensive line talent.
Well, and Dudley, where Arkansas is, you said maybe half of that. That's more the norm. So I don't think Arkansas is way behind. I think that's just more the norm today, where Tennessee, it's just highly unusual. And guys, out of that group of 12 that they played, only 2 of them are from the portal. And Omar Norman-Lott and Jackson Moy, both of them from the Pac-12, by the way. Everybody else was from within their program, developed a lot of seniors, redshirt seniors in that group. And then they're a little bit younger at the edge rush spots where they have 2nd and 3rd year guys. And look, Here's another thing. James Pierce Jr. hasn't gotten off yet. He hasn't gone off yet and terrorized people. That's and true. I think that will come as well. He's not forcing it. He's not worried about his stats. The scouts are not worried about him racking up stats, things like that. So I think as more people pay attention to the other guys and are forced to have to deal with them, that's where I think you'll see in SEC play more James Pierce Jr. Making impact plays. He's doing fine. The coaches are fine with it, but there's another level for him too. That's kind of a scary thought.
He's going to be the number 1 pick and have 12 tackles.
Yeah. Hey, think about it. When I remember in college when Cornelius Biscuit Bennett out of Inslee was playing at Alabama, he was so good he would take away that side of the field. He might only have 2 tackles in a game, but he swayed and he influenced the game and how the other team had to play. So you've got to read into what's really going on, and coaches and guys like y'all know that. Both of y'all, with you just mentioned 10 of the 12 linemen for Tennessee have come up through that program. Kirby does it at Georgia. You're thinking about leaving, Dudley? I got news for you. It ain't going to be any easier where you go. I'd rather, live with the devil I know than the one I don't know. You're going to have problems wherever you go. How many times did we hear it when junior college was like the portal in its day? And they'd say, well, they're in junior college for a reason. It could be grades. It could be behavioral issues, all of the above, okay? But when you bring kids up in your program and your culture, you do trust them. How do you trust a lot of these kids that are coming through the portal? They're just stopping by for a cup of coffee at your school, grab some cash, and they leave. They're not vested. And what's made the SEC so damn good has been the depth, the 2s and the 3s at every position. Now, I say this all the time, but it's true. They're on somebody's roster. So every Saturday, the level of anxiety, you better pay attention. All these analysts that you have, are they tracking where all these players are going? That's Dudley. I want to ask you that question because that's a big deal, and it's showing up on Saturdays or Fridays whenever we play. And
I came on here and started talking about Phil Blutka, the UNLV quarterback who has decided to redshirt because he didn't get whatever he said had been promised to him. Because I trust Barry Odom and I think he's a good man. I won't just take Phil's side for it, but I also won't, in this day and age, toss that to the side. Certainly would like to get more information on that before I trash somebody one way or the other. I'll just say you don't quit on your team.
Correct.
It's still the philosophy, I've got, all that. We see it's like his 5th year anyway. Now he's going to redshirt and have 6. Shake my head on that. But
yeah, I'm tired of these guys, these forever guys. Come on, just get out of college, get a job.
I'm going to run it back. Yeah, you're going to run it back where? All those kind of things. I just, I'm all into team chemistry and loyalty and all that. It's slipping out of the game a little bit. You mentioned Georgia. Yes, they've done a great job of keeping there. I know that they're glad Xavier Stories, here this year. And Addison Nichols, from Tennessee, guys who made the decision to transfer, and that's helped other, there are valid reasons sometimes, but I just woke up this morning and in a pretty good mood and then read that thing about the UNLV quarterback, thought, here we go again. I didn't even think about the check not clearing in the 3rd game of the season. I knew at the end of the season with KJ, Jefferson, he didn't transfer last year till that last check cleared. It's just I'm covering pro sports, man. I'm covering pro sports now.
Well, these guys are going to find out when they leave these schools that have provided. I'm so tired of this all about the tail wagging the dog about these poor kids. Shove it up your. I don't want to hear that. Okay, these schools have been there for hundreds of years. It's like embedded capital gains built up, and there's a lot of credibility. You know what? It ain't all about you. So I look here at Tennessee and Arkansas. Vince, we're going to wrap it up here in just a second. The roster, Dudley nailed it. You better have guys that you can trust on there. Final thing, Vince, I got to ask you. What is the story going on at Tennessee or in the SEC that nobody's talking about that we need to be paying attention to? Because it's always what we're not talking about that's going to be the next big story. And great job, Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. You nailed it.
Well, I think that people aren't talking about. That's difficult. I would say that the biggest story that maybe people outside of Knoxville maybe aren't thinking about is the health of those tackles. Because all throughout college football, when you lose a tackle, it is tough to overcome. I remember Colt Cubic did a little social media piece about, hey, Tennessee's okay with their backup tackle. Most teams are not. And Tennessee ended up not being okay. And they ended up being down 2 tackles. So as far as what people aren't outside of the area, I will say the health of those tackles, which we don't know as of yet. Josh Heupel's going to talk to the media later this morning. He's not going to be forced to say anything. He probably won't. But that's what I would say in terms of Tennessee is they need the help of those tackles, or else that will be an issue in terms of not being able to fully do their offense, because it's crippling if you don't have your best guys there.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go health too. I'm going to go health too. As good as Arkansas secondary has played, TJ Metcalf, obviously player of the week, has 3 interceptions, tied for the lead. 2 of their starting defensive secondary have been out for the past 2 games. And, it's once they get those guys back, that shores that up a little bit. They've got a defensive tackle who hasn't been able to play. A few other injuries. Once to get the whole team back together, as they say, if they have some confidence and some positivity, if they're able to go down to Arlington and win, then it's going to be fun for a lot of fans and disappointing for others who are hoping that there'd be a coaching change.
Look, this is great stuff. Awesome show, guys. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Think what that means, folks. Go out, find ways to help other people. Pay attention. Hurricane heading our way. Hunker down, everybody. Executive producer Brendan Martin, as good as it gets. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Lots to talk about. Follow these guys, people. They're moving the needle in the sports media business. We're blessed to have them. See you in the morning.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.